This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
(1:15). This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Niranjan Abesundara. The Prime Minister says that the human and physical resources should be developed in order to take the country forward. Another 1 million Sinopharm vaccines arrived in the country. State Minister of Finance says all needed finance is ready to pay the scheduled loan instalment. A complete reform will be implemented in school education in the year 2023. Ideas have been exchanged between Sri Lanka and India on organic agriculture. Sri Lanka informs EU of action to review PTA and on the progress in reconciliation. In world news, Australia to halve arrivals and trial home quarantine. The Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa virtually declared open the Kapaduwa interchange of Southern Expressway and Gateway underpass today. He said human and physical resources should be developed in order to take the country forward. The road network should be strengthened to enhance the economy of the country. Further, the Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa laid the foundation stone to construct a maritime facilitation centre at the Colombo port. Event unfolded at the Temple Trees in Colombo this morning with the participation of a limited number of guests in compliance with the health guidelines. Highways Minister Mr. Johnson Fernando, Port and Shipping Minister Rohita Abhigunawardena and other high-level officials are present at the ceremony. Sri Lanka received another consignment of Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccines, says State Minister of Production, Supply and Regulation of Pharmaceuticals, Professor Chandra Jayasumana. A charter flight carrying 1 million doses of the China-made jab has touched down at the Bandar International Airport in Katunayake early this morning. The government of China delivered the vaccine and consigned to Sri Lanka as a part of the purchase order placed by the State Pharmaceuticals Corporation to boost the country's inoculation drive. Sri Lanka ramped up coronavirus vaccinations upon the receipt of 2 million more Sinopharm shots in early July. This enabled the extension of national inoculation drive to 12 more districts and the administration of Sinopharm vaccine's second dose. Sinopharm coronavirus vaccine, also known as BBIBP-CoV, is produced by China National Biotech Group, a subsidiary of China National Pharmaceutical Corporation, Sinopharm. Speaking further, Professor Jayasumana said that the first batch of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines is expected to arrive in Sri Lanka on Monday. State Minister Aditya Cabral said that all needed finance are ready to pay loan installment to paid at scheduled time. He said all loans and interest to be paid upon up to now have already been paid. But the opposition is making baseless allegation that the present government is unable to pay the foreign debt. The aim is to propagate false information to national or to suspend the foreign investment to be received to the country. He requested the opposition to prevent of such activities. He also said the government is fulfilling the aspiration of the people even amidst COVID pandemic. Director General of National Education Institute, Dr. Sunil Jant, has said that a complete reform will be introduced to the school education in order to create smart child to the country by the year 2023. A training program is in place for teachers and principals in this regard. Special syllabus will be also prepared. Reforms will be introduced at the first stage to the 1, 2, 6, 8 and 8 grades. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
The government of Sri Lanka has apprised the European Union of progress in specific areas of reconciliation as a part of its regular engagement and dialogue with the organisation. Accordingly, the Foreign Ministry on 25th June informed the EU of action underway to revisit provisions of the Prevention of Terrorism Act No. 48 of 1979 with the study of existing legislation, past practice, international best practices. The EU was informed of the decision made by the Cabinet Ministers on 21st June to appoint a committee, subcommittee and officials committee to assist the Cabinet subcommittee to review the PTA and to submit a report to the Cabinet within 3 months. Towards this end, the Officials Committee was appointed on 24th of June with senior representation from the Ministries of Justice, Defence, Foreign Affairs, Public Security and the Attorney General Department, the Legal Development Department, the Sri Lanka Police and Office of the Chief of National Intelligence. The EU was further informed of granting of pardon by the President, exercising his powers in terms of Article 34 of the Constitution to 16 former LTT cadres convicted and serving sentence under PTA on 24th of June. The organisation was also apprised of the process that has been set in motion to release detainees who have been in judicial custody for a prolonged period under the PTA. The Government of Sri Lanka will continue its close and cordial dialogue with the EU with regard to commitments while demonstrating the country's substantial progress in areas of reconciliation and development. 305 persons have been taken into custody for violating the quarantine rules. Police media spokesman Aditya Rohan said that more than 46,000 persons were arrested in this connection. He said 30,307 vehicles have been inspected in 14 places of entering and exit of the Western Province. And that was local news.
The largest bonus declared in the history of the Sri Lankan insurance industry. Sri Lanka Insurance Grand Bonus, an unmatchable bonus of 8.6 billion rupees only for Sri Lanka Insurance life policy holders from the nation's largest insurer. Call 0112 357 357 for more details. Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Minister Nama Radhapaksa say that 10 tab computers will be given for 300 PIRI winners. This facility will be given to maintain online education activities under the Digital Infrastructure Facility Program. He made the remarks at discussion held Temple Trees yesterday to enhance the freedom of education of bhikkhus and students. Well, that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And on to Watchlight. Nearly 250 families are facing difficulty due to removing the SLTB bus operated by Dorsabagi town to Dotulugama. The request the Labour Authority to take measures to reoperate this service for the convenience of the public. This was the attention of the Navatapitia Depot Superintendent, and that came to you in Watchlight. On to world news, Australia to half arrivals and trial home quarantine. Heatwave record village overwhelmingly burnt in wildfire. US President says still possible to find survivors in Miami building collapse. Australia will halve the number of international arrivals it accepts after COVID outbreaks, with half the population in lockdown this week. The country's strict border rules have only allowed Australians and people with exemption to enter. From 14th of July, Australia will accept just over 3,000 people a week, a measure likely to last until next year. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, said the cuts would reduce pressure on the quarantine system. Virus leaks from hotel quarantine, which is mandatory for all arrivals, have been the source of numerous outbreaks across the country. A wildfire has burnt 90% of the village that recorded Canada's highest ever temperature, says the local MP. Brad West said the fire had caused extensive damage to Lytton in British Columbia and to surrounding critical infrastructure. Jean Polderman, mayor of Lytton, told the BBC he had been lucky to get out with his own life. There won't be very much left in Lytton, he said. There was fire everywhere. Mr. Polderman told BBC News Hour programme his town was engulfed by a wall of fire. US President Joe Biden has said it is still possible to find survivors in the rubble of a building that collapsed last week near Miami in Florida. Speaking after meeting families of people who died or still missing, he said they were going through hell and the federal funding for the rescue effort would continue for a month. He also said it was essential to find out what caused the collapse. 18 bodies have been recovered, but 145 people are still unaccounted for. And back to the headlines of the world news. Australia to halve arrivals and trial home quarantine. Heatwave record village overwhelmingly burnt in wildfire. The US president says still possible to find survivors in Miami building collapse. Development news, a purpose-built industrial park in Eravur in eastern Sri Lanka under tight environmental rules and low carbon emissions will produce greener fabric raw material trail that is transparent to final buyers, while existing industrial zones are being spruced up. Using fabric and material produced at Sri Lanka Park will provide end-to-end visibility in the whole supply chain. SME companies in particular will be the beneficiary of the findings. The report contains findings from an 18-month study and recommends that 12 areas that the apparel sector to focus to make it more eco-friendly. That is development news, and on to sports news. The final and third ODI played between visiting Sri Lanka team and England team will be held on Sunday in Bristol. The matches begin at 3 p.m. local time. England team is leading 2-0. That was sports news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
The Sri Lankan government on Wednesday invited businessmen to identify tariff issues that are impeding trade between the two countries. Consul General of Sri Lanka in Karachi, G.L. Naldeva, advised businessmen, exporters and members of Pakistan-Sri Lanka Business Council or the Federation of Pakistan Chambers of Commerce and Industry to conduct a comparative study on tariff levels levied on various products to resolve grievances. Naldeva said traders of both countries should explore more varied sectors to increase the bilateral trade to its true potential. That was the business news.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news. Courtesy of
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The governments of India and Sri Lanka have exchanged views on organic agriculture activities. A bilateral online discussion was held yesterday by the Indian High Commission Office on the request made by the government. The main lecture was delivered by Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle. State Ministers Sita Arapula and Shashindra Rajapaksa were present at the discussion. The Indian High Commissioner praised Sri Lanka government of directing for an organic agriculture. That was economic news.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
The Met Department says showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamu, northwestern and southern provinces and in the Kandy and Noda districts. Fairly heavy showers above 50 millimeters can be expected some places in the western and Sabaragamu provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. Short thunder showers may occur at a few places in the U and eastern provinces and the Murathivu and Vavuniya districts in the evening or night. That was the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And back to the headlines of the news. The Prime Minister said that human and physical resources should be developed in order to take the country forward. Another 1 million Sinopharm vaccines arrived in the country. State Minister of Finance says all needed finance is ready to pay the scheduled loan installment. A complete reform will be implemented in school education in the year 2023. Ideas have been exchanged between Sri Lanka and India on organic agriculture. Sri Lanka informs EU of Action Review PTA and on the progress in reconciliation. In world news, Australia to have arrivals and trial home quarantine. With that, we end after news broadcast.